Okay, the second choice is going to be what happens if my second sign is negative? Well, the only way to get a negative number is to multiply a positive times a negative. So that tells me that when I break my trinomial up into binomials or two binomials, I know I'm already going to have an x and an x because of the x squared. And because the second sign is negative, I can go ahead and write down a plus and a minus. I know I'm going to have both of those signs. But what the second sign also tells me is that I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to say, what are the factors of 6 that subtract to give me 1? There's an understood 1 right there. So what are the factors of 6? Well, 1 and 6 don't subtract to give me 1, but 2 and 3 subtract to give me 1. So the only thing I need to check is I need to subtract 2 and 3 so that I get a positive 1. So I'm going to put my 3 here on the positive, my 2 on the negative. Plus 3 minus 2 gives me a plus 1. So let's practice that a couple of more times. Here I have in example 4, I know this is going to factor. I know it's going to factor with an x and an x. The second sign says I'm going to have a plus and a minus. And I know I'm going to subtract. The factors of 3 are 1 and 3. They're going to subtract to give me 2, but I need this to be a positive 2. So I'm going to put my 3 over here with the positive and my 1 over here with the negative. And there's my answer. Okay, let's factor this and do number 5. Here I have 2x squared plus 14x minus 36. And notice that this 2 is there in front of the x squared. All of the problems we've done so far, the coefficient in front of my x squared has been 1. And that means that makes our factoring much easier. So if I can factor a 2 out of all of these terms, it's going to make my factoring much easier. And in fact, there is a 2 that I can factor out of all 3 of those terms. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2 times x squared plus 7x minus 18. I'm going to keep the 2 on the outside, but now I'm going to look at this trinomial here inside of the parentheses and factor it. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2 times x. The second sign is negative, so I'm going to have a plus and a minus. So what are the factors of 18 that add to give me 7? 1 and 18 are not going to work. 2 and 9, not add. 2 and 9 subtract to give me 7. Since my second sign is negative, I need to subtract. So I'm going to write the 9 here and the 2 over here, because plus 9 minus 2 gives me plus 7. Okay, in the last problem we're going to work, notice that in all of the other examples we've done, well, I guess notice in this example, can I factor anything out of this trinomial? And the answer is yes. I can factor a y out of each one of these terms, and I'm left with y squared minus 7y minus 8. Okay, so we always want to check and see, is there anything I can factor out? So now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say y times 2 binomials. I'm going to split this y squared up into 2 terms. My subtraction sign says I'm going to have a plus and a minus. The factors of 8 that subtract to give me 7 would be 1 and 8, but I do need this to be a negative 7. So this time the plus 1 goes over here and the minus 8 goes on the opposite side. So my answer looks like that. Notice that I have 1, 2, 3 y's here in the answer, and I also have 3 y's up there in my original problem. So that is how you're going to factor using when a trinomial is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So in other words, when the coefficient in front of x squared is 1, we're going to use one of these 2 methods to evaluate how to factor this. And these are really just tips on or shortcuts. They're ways for us to make educated guesses so we can factor our trinomials into something that looks like that.